I'm going to share something with y'all. um, there are so few true secrets in fishing, maybe in life. This one may be a regional secret. I don't know. I know I'm not the only guy that does it. I know one other guy that does it. I'll be back and talk about it. It's old school, dating back to the 80s anyway. That's old enough, isn't it? Be right back. I probably have a dozen or so baits or techniques. I think you could call them secret. Kind of developed some of them myself. Some of them have been forgotten. I've shared a few of them on my channel before, dating back several years to my head and tadpole. I'm almost scared to talk about that one anymore. Where to start? Well, what made me do this video, I'd thought about it before, but I did the Big Bass Bash video. I did a clip of me fishing a worm on a dock, and a couple people noticed that. What the heck's that? This is a maybe just an Ozarks fall deal. The first time I ever fished this bait, though, was June or July, and I caught fish on it, obviously. It's not that finite a technique. But what this thing is, a plastic worm, and it seems to me that it works best this time of year when the shad start coming up, getting back in the creeks. I think. Actually, I talked to Chris Johnson about this. First time I ever talked to him on the phone. First time ever. We talked about this. He knew it too. A little bit scary. How many things that we've developed or worked on and come across over the years separate from each other. This bait got away from me. For one thing, nobody made it anymore. It was a Gene LaRue thing originally. And I don't remember seeing this bait in 30-something years in anybody's catalog of baits. And what it is, now I'm doing it in the bait I did it in, well, the original Gene LaRue was like that twiddle tail, it's the 7-inch or so with a curl tail. I do it in my Dale tail, sickle tail, gator tail copy, kind of. It's that white tail. Not exactly white, it's actually pearl white. I don't know if y'all can see that. And Chris admitted that's exactly what he wanted. I made him some. He said they were perfect. I don't know if he's just being nice to me. That is as close as I remember it being back in the 80s. And what happened was, somehow one year, late September, I was throwing an electric blue worm, pitching docks, flipping docks, and I had, I don't know, 2 or 3 of these white tails from the summer previous. So I've been 82. And I went to a firetail worm, and the dang brim were just ripping me apart, which they will this thing too. They like that funky colored tail. So I pulled a white one out and commenced to spanking them like I'd never done on a plastic worm that time of year. The fish were in brush piles and a foot or two of water. And I thought to myself then, is it that important? So I bought more of them. Actually, I had a bag of 100. A guy had left over. I bought all 100 of them. And that next 3 or 4 weeks, when the situation was right, when the fish were situated right, boat docks and brush piles, oh my gosh. I think, and Chris and I talked about this, it's a shad thing. So there are shad all over the country, of course. I don't know if it's an Ozark thing or not. I just think that when the fish are getting that shad mood, which they're getting into right now, it's a little bit late here this year, but the shad are getting back in the creeks. When they get in a shad mood, that a plastic worm, wherever it fits the situation, I mean, not where you're throwing a buzz bait or a crankbait or a spinner bait or a chatterbait or a swim bait, where you're fishing a worm, wherever that may be for you, that pearl white tail, I think makes them think, shad. Now, is that taking it too far? Do fish have time to think about that? It definitely has a different, cut to the chase, bottom line, it's a different looking bait than anybody throws, including in 1982. We sold, the tackle shop I worked at, we sold way more firetail electric blue worms we did those whitetails. Matter of fact, those whitetails were a mistake. They came into the shop I was working in, and I don't know, we had like 500 firetails, and there was 100 of these in the Gene LaRue worm. Well, of course, I had to have some because it was something different. Back then, I had to have everything. Nobody else had it. Nobody else liked it. A whitetail worm? No, it's got to be firetail or whatever. And that was a long time ago, and I didn't fish this bait for a lot of years until recently, and wow. So if that's a secret, there you go. Chris may not like me talking about this. Unless you guys start whooping us, it don't matter. So few people pay attention when you're talking about stuff. It's just so few people. I'm not doing this to sell baits. I hadn't even thought about that. I'm doing this to share with you that there's ways to catch bass, ways that maybe present a fish with something you haven't seen before or for a while. A pearl tail worm. I like this worm. I bought the mold because this is like the old gator tail. The sickle tail worm has a lot of action. It falls really cool. You can change the fall rate with this worm real easy. It changes more from an 1/8 ounce weight to a 3/16 to a quarter than any other bait. It has a different kind of fall. In the summertime, have used a 4-inch version or bite that off and put that on a jig, on a swim jig. It was just a white jig. We flip it in the timber and swim it back out, and that tail is a killer on a jig. Sounds like I'm trying to sell baits again. That was not the point of the video. The point of the video is a shad aimed at being a shad style bait. I think that's what happens. I really do. If y'all have something else, some idea, maybe I'm off on that, let me know. It also has worked for me in almost really clear water, pretty clear. And it's worked in really dingy water. Matter of fact, it's like any other, the situation matches the technique matches the situation. I'm flipping this bait or pitching like I was in that video in the boat docks, foot and a half visibility. That was the clearest water I fished all day. It matches the situation because I'm going to be pretty much fishing it fairly shallow in fairly dirty water. But I caught him one year on Stockton Lake in 15 foot of water on a Texas rig, giving it big old hops. Big old, and my gosh, they were no tap. They were eating it. They weren't till the next day in the tournament, but that's a whole other story. It happens to me a lot, you know. And this is also my #1 follow-up worm this time of year on a buzzbait miss, or a topwater miss, a spook miss. Fish miss the bait. However your technique is, most of the time I throw back with the same bait. Especially if they miss it the second time, I take one of these on a follow-up rod, quickly toss it past the fish, come cranking up, and then kill it right where that fish was. Yeah. Be ready. Probably the best follow-up bait I've ever used. Definitely in the fall, the best follow-up bait. Pearl tail, and not just electric blue. One I had in the video, I was solid black. Solid black. I've got strawberries, whatever. You match the conditions again with the worm. Of course, electric blue works. Clear water, dirty water. It's a very versatile color. Matter of fact, it's probably the most versatile color. I was throwing a black one, no flake or nothing, just that flake with black with that pearl white tail. And I've made like 4 or 5. I don't even remember. I made Chris. I made several different colors. It's not that picky. This whole color thing has gotten out of hand, but I make baits for a living, and the #1 way to sell baits is to make pretty baits. People like pretty. You catch fishermen before you catch the bass. That is what I've got. I've been thinking about sharing this, and somebody caught me with that worm. Is it really a secret? I think so, because I don't know another person on Lake of the Ozarks Sunday that was throwing a worm that looked like that. I guarantee you that's the only one. And if that's the biggest advantage that I have, if that's the only advantage that I have, I'll take it. Because these fish are so pressured, so beat up, so getting used to the same thing over and over. A little something extra. If anything, the confidence it gives me, that's where we're at. There you go. Chris, I do wrong. Oh, man, the stuff you got to come up with to make YouTube videos. Thank y'all for watching. Hope you're catching some fish. I'm been in the bait lab 9 hours today, and I've got 2 more hours before I'm going to call it quits. I'm going to get some orders done. Thank y'all. God bless. We'll talk at you, or we'll share some secrets again soon, hope.